favorite book, which I believe would receive 5 points, is My Name is Asher Lev by Chaim Potok. This is a book that I read in school, in high school. I was assigned this book for summer reading, and I ended up really loving it. This book is about a boy named Asher Lev, and he's growing up in a very Orthodox Jewish household in New York City, but he has developed a passion for art, and he wants to become a painter, but his father wants him to go into the family business, and so he's got this like conflict between what he feels is his duty and what he really wants to do. And he eventually becomes really passionate about art, and his art sort of drives him away from his religion, and he ends up being exiled from his home and exiled from his faith because of a painting that he does, that he submits for a prize, and he gets it shown in a gallery, and then there's a big scandal, and he basically has to leave his home, and he goes to college and finds a new family and things like that. But it's just a really moving book and a very impactful book, and it just shows the importance of art, and then the importance of religion and your family, and the conflict between your passion and then what's expected of you. And it's just a really great read, and I highly recommend it. My fourth favorite book is Shadows on the Rock by Willa, Cather. This is probably the newest book to this list. I just read this back in 2017, but I just really found it so moving and so impactful. This is about a young girl named Cecile, and she lives in Quebec with her father, and in the 1600s. And this shows a year in their life. It starts in the fall when the boats that come every year from France are leaving to go home before the winter, and so there's like a big celebration when they leave, and it shows their life throughout that whole cold winter, and then the life of some of the townspeople, including a young trapper who's in love with a nun, and then the nun, of course, has devoted herself to God, and so it's about his story, and then it's about some other people, some of the priests in the town, but it's mostly about Cecile and her father, and it's just such an evocative book. It just really made me want to live in Quebec in the 1600s, which of course would be a terrible time to live in Quebec, but it was just really, like, the scenery is really well portrayed, and the story is really moving. It's a simple book. It doesn't have much of a plot. It's just following these people throughout a year in their life, but it's just so moving, and I just really enjoyed this book, and I think about it all the time, and it's definitely one that I would want to reread in the future as well. Just highly recommend it, and all of Willa Cather's works are really great if you're interested in, like, classic American, landscape and writing, but even then, it's not about America, it's about Canada, but it's just a really impactful story that I highly recommend. My third favorite book is The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry by Rachel Joyce. This is a very wonderful book that I've recently reread, and that's how you know I really like a book, is when I reread it. Sorry, my kitty is right here, she's like, looking like she's about to bite me, because she's a naughty girl. Let's see if she'll calm down. But anywho, so this is about a man named Harold Fry, and he receives a letter from an old friend of his named Queenie, and it says that she's dying of cancer, and it's just sort of like a goodbye letter. And Harold decides that he wants to go visit her, so he just walks out his door and starts walking across England to see her. He lives down in the western part of England, and she lives way up in the north. And so he's walking way across England, and it's about all the people he meets and how he sort of finds out who he is. And he's been having marriage problems with his wife, and it's sort of about how he recognizes the goodness of his life, and they sort of become reconciled over the course of this journey. And then he gets to meet Queenie, and he realizes that Queenie's cancer is quite severe, and so he thought maybe his walking would save her, and that's sort of a theme of the book, is that he's going to save her through his trip. But of course it ends up that she passes away. That's not really a spoiler, because she tells you at the beginning that she's dying of cancer. But yeah, it's just about his journey and the people he meets and his family, and how his family is impacted by his journey. And it's just a really fascinating, really lovely book. There is a sequel to this book, but I don't recommend it. It's not very good. But yeah, I really recommend this book. It's just a really fascinating lovely, beautiful story. Highly recommend this. My second favorite book is Major Pettigrew's Last Stand by Helen Simonson, and this is a book about a guy named Major Pettigrew, and he's lost his wife, and he's kind of depressed, and he doesn't have much to live for, but he meets this neighbor across the street, Mrs. Alley, and it's about how he sort of develops a friendship and then later a romantic relationship with Mrs. Alley, and it's just about how he sort of finds something to look for again, and he meets her family, and he sort of starts learning more about Indian culture, and then it makes him more adventurous in his life, and he goes out, and it's sort of very similar to the Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, because it's about two older men, finding themselves and sort of going on a journey, and after a period of very strong grief in their life, and it's just a really beautiful story, and I just really recommend it. This is another book that I read from the library, and then I went out and bought my own copy, and this is another book that, again, I really want to reread sometime soon. But yeah, it's just a really beautiful story. Highly recommend it. Really love it. I think about it all the time. And I have Helen Simonson's other book, The Summer Before the War, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm really interested in rereading this one and getting to summer as well. So yeah, really recommend this book. And then my favorite book of all time, receiving 10 points in the scale, is Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery. This is like the book of my childhood, besides Harry Potter, of course, but this one, I read this before I read Harry Potter, so it's just like, when I think childhood, I think Harry Potter, and I think Anne of Green Gables. This book, and the whole series, is just so wonderful. If you haven't read it, why have you not read it? Like, come on, people. This is about Anne Shirley, and she's an orphan, and she gets adopted by this brother and sister, Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert. And when they first adopt her, they think they're going to get a boy to help Matthew with the farm. And she comes, and they're going to send her back to the orphanage, and she's so upset, and she starts to cry, but they're going to send her back anyway. But it's about how they fall in love with Anne, and they become a family, and it's just about Anne's adventures in Avonlea, which is a small town on Prince Edward Island, and it's about her friendship with Diana, and her relationship with Gilbert Blythe, and just so many wonderful characters that stay with you for the rest of your life, and the whole series is just so wonderful, and I highly recommend it. And again, if you haven't read this, what are you doing with your life? Go read it. It's such a wonderful book. And honestly, Anne is a redhead. And redheads are the best. So, you're missing out if you haven't read this. Just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. 5 stars. All of these books are 5 stars, actually. But this one is like the 5est of 5 stars. And it gets 10 points. And it deserves it. It's just a wonderful book. I highly recommend this. What are you doing with your life if you haven't read this? Love it. Anywho, so those are my 10 favorite books, and they've all had a big impact on me, and they're all books I think about all the time. And yeah, if you feel like doing this tag, you should definitely do it, because I'm always interested in hearing about people's favorite books. And that's it for this video, and I hope everybody's having a great day, and you're reading some great books, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!